Hello, everyone. Welcome to the Ranting Weight Watcher podcast. The purpose of this podcast is to create hope for every single one of you out there that is in the fight for your health. It exists to get you to realize one major thing. This fight you're in, it isn't about losing weight at all. This whole journey, as a matter of fact, is about you becoming the greatest version of yourself. Because the reality of all this is, losing weight comes with no guarantees of keeping the success you create. However, becoming the greatest version of yourself will give each and every one of you the tools necessary to keep the success you create. But don't get it twisted. This is by far the most difficult thing you will ever do. Because essentially, who you are today has to die in order to become the person you were always meant to be in this world. You have to live your life today like no one else on this planet is willing to live, so that one day you can live your life like no one else can. But make no mistake, either you sacrifice today for what you say you want, or what you say you want becomes the sacrifice. Sometimes the difference between success and failure is having a complete stranger believe in you. I am that stranger. Yeah, Friday! Good morning, good afternoon, good evening, whenever you may be listening. Thanks for making me part of your day. This is episode 227 of the Ranting Weight Watcher podcast. Before I get started today, I want to talk about that 60% off discount that is going on with Weight Watchers right now. If you have been thinking to take control of your health, it is a great time to do so with a 60% discount. And literally, the link is going to be below in the description of this podcast. You're going to click on the words, it'll expand, and you'll see the link. Click on that, and you'll see 60% off. The one catch is you'll have to sign up for 10 months of service. You'll have to commit to 10 months, and that's a great time. If you can give yourself 10 months to see if something's really going to work for you, and that is a great amount of time to give yourself. It's basically a year. You know what? Because by the 10-month mark, you'll know for sure if, number one, you've been giving it your all, and number two, if it's been working. And if number one wasn't happening, it's not going to be working, right? So if that's something you've been thinking about, look, 60% off in this day and age is a big deal. So take advantage of it. Sign up for those 10 months. Get the 60% off discount. The link is below. And if you sign up, come look for me in Coach Sophie F's workshop every Saturday morning, 9 a.m. Eastern Standard Time. Again, Coach Sophie F. It's a great workshop filled with great people. It's my favorite workshop of the week. And you can go in there and you'll see there's a bunch of hardworking people. They all care about each other. And I have been seeing them every Saturday morning for years now at this point. And if that's something that interests you, that's where I spend every Saturday morning, 9 a.m. Eastern Standard Time. Well, let's not waste any more time. Let's get into this! Journey update. So weigh-in is April 5th, 2025. I stepped on the scale and stayed the same, 222.6 pounds. I have basically zero loss, zero gain, 27 pounds remaining to get to my goal. The week stats would run from April 6th, 2025 to April 12th, 2025. These numbers this week are much lower. Dealt with some issues. I'm not really going to get into it, but dealt with some issues. And so the numbers are just not as high. So what do? We get up, keep going, and move forward, right? There's always going to be anomalies in what happens in life, right? So the total steps for those dates that I just gave you is 69,270. I guess it all evens out because the week before that was like 99,000, right? Average steps per day is 9,896 steps per day. Total miles walked that week is 30 miles. And this is an average mileage per day of 4.25 miles a day. Still not weightlifting yet, but I'm thinking I'm going to get started soon. So we'll get that all squared away and jump back into weightlifting. When I start keeping track of weightlifting, it's going to be total weight lifted, right? So if I do 10 arm curls with a 10-pound weight, that's 100 pounds lifted. Understand? So that's the way I'll be counting. When I give you the stats of weights lifted, it's going to be however much it weighed times however many reps, right? And the total amount at the end with however many exercises that is. But that's going to be coming soon. I'll be returning to that. I am starting to feel a lot more confident with my knee, managing and even waking up with zero pain now, where before it was like I was going to bed and waking up with pain right from the beginning of the day. So now I am having minor aches and pains, doing, just normal stuff around the house. Like last weekend I got up went up in the attic a couple of times, so the knee was a little sore. This is to be expected. These are normal things that come. So I'm thinking I'm at the point where I can really start to try and get back to normal life again. And so this is going to be the goal coming up very soon. So I want to recap what I talked about last week. I kind of have been going and continuing off of each week and seeing where this all takes me, right? We talked about what happens when food becomes the event and how the anticipation of eating something you haven't eaten in a while or something you're craving causes a snowball effect where you're making this buildup of such an event that when you actually go to eat it, you're creating a dopamine hit. And attaching dopamine to food is also what creates the cycle in the first place, right? People don't realize this, but it doesn't really matter why you seek food, whether it's because you're depressed and you're seeking comfort, whether it is you're happy and you want to celebrate, whether you're angry and you're seeking distraction. All of these things, when food is I'm not even just food, but the reward of those things is food each time, right? So you're feeling depressed, the reward is food. You're feeling angry, the reward is food. You're feeling happy, the reward is food. All of these things create a dopamine cycle. And it creates a pathway for each one of these emotions. It's not just one pathway for emotions in general. It's going to be triggered per emotion. And you'll even notice that it's as sophisticated. The brain, in this case, is so unbelievably sophisticated that depending the emotion would also depend the reward. A depression would seek maybe sweets, where happiness might seek savory. The possibilities are really endless, right? Maybe it seeks something fried. Maybe it seeks something greasy, whatever it is. The point is, in all this, is that you are giving yourself what you want when you want it. When you do this, you're creating a dopamine cycle, right? And so a dopamine high is also followed by a lull, right? And so when that lull comes, you're going to be seeking another dopamine high, right? And now whatever that reasoning might be at that point, and it's almost like, if you think about it, it's the same cycle, same kind of cycling that creates when they say the sugar spikes, right? The best way to avoid sugar spikes and sugar dips is to not eat sugar, right? So you stay even the entire time. But when we start our day with something that's going to create an enormous sugar spike, our sugar is going to dip immediately after that. And fatigue comes and you're tired and you're, and the energy spike that comes with sugar only lasts a couple of hours. So then all of a sudden you're seeking more of it, right? And you're thinking there's something wrong with you, and you're saying, what's wrong with me that what I ate this morning isn't enough? Really, it has nothing to do with how much you ate. It's everything to do with what you chose to eat and what that food item did inside your body and what it's doing in the process of digesting. So if you never create that sugar spike, you never have the dip. And if you never have that dip, you never feel the fatigue, the lack of energy that comes along with it, and you're never seeking an additional spike. The same thing with the dopamine hit, with the dopamine cycles. If you never create the dopamine cycle, or you never create the dopamine spike, you won't have that lull, and you won't be seeking more, right? So the pathways to dopamine are created in how you seek comfort. Some people seek comfort when they're stressed by grabbing sweets. Some people seek comfort when they're stressed by grabbing alcohol. Some people seek comfort when they're stressed by grabbing cigarettes. Everybody has their way. The question is that way healthy or not? Right? That's the real question. And these are all the things I talked about last week. These are all of the things that contribute. And the biggest problem with these methods is that they are highly normalized, especially with regard to food. They are highly normalized, and they don't ever want you feeling the guilt and shame that comes along with it. So they overly reward you, or they overly make you feel good and warm and fuzzy about everything, even though what you did is detrimental to the journey. So you're there's this overindulgence in the grace of things, and the grace of getting yourself through something. Just allow it. How many times can you lend yourself grace before you start to realize, how much grace can I give myself if I never stop doing what caused me to need the grace? Right? It's all a vicious cycle, all of it in its entirety. And this is kind of what, because of so many of these things with regards to food directly, are normalized. Nowadays, if I turn to alcohol for stress, if I turn to alcohol for anything emotional, anger, whatever it is, people are going to notice this as a problem right away. Same thing with cigarettes. People are going to notice that as a problem right away. Same thing with drug habits. People are going to notice that right away. The same thing with abuse of prescription drugs. People are going to notice that right away. But with regard to food, no, everybody needs food. No, don't feel bad about that. Don't feel bad about that. But this is something, you've just substituted the substance. You did. And because so many foods out there are essentially just as much drugs as anything else you could think of, it's overlooked. The laboratory experiment that some of these foods have become, you can't pronounce the majority of these ingredients. Let's face it. Now with Robert F. Kennedy trying to ban all these ingredients, they're pretending like it's going to take years and years. Meanwhile, the exact same product sold in 30 other countries that our version is banned in, they already have a recipe. They already have a recipe that will enable them to make Fruit Loops for children that won't be detrimental to them. Because in other countries, they won't allow the Fruit Loops that's sold here. And they want to pretend like it'll take years to correct this issue. Meanwhile, they already have the recipe. I mean, I could send an email overseas in like 30 seconds. Really. And let's just be real honest here. There's no way somebody in the corporate level of Kellogg's in America doesn't know that over whatever country that the same cereal is a different recipe, and there's no way that person doesn't know how to get that recipe and how to make the changes immediately. Yet they are claiming that this will take time, and they need time. They don't need time. They're trying to wait out a person in charge. They're delaying and kicking the can down the road and wasting time in the process in the hope that eventually the person's replaced and the next person in line never appoints them to have to do it, and they can continue on their merry way selling you the drugs that are on those shelves. It's all normalized. All of it. And there's plenty of people that want to pretend it's normal and that I'm wrong. They would rather attack me than attack the fact that a corporation, a billion-dollar corporation, is profiting off of you becoming sick and addicted to their food. It's one big circle. Meanwhile, they know in 30 other countries the same recipe that is making you sick is banned. And people here would rather attack a person like me saying there's something wrong than they would standing up. I mean, God, if people would concentrate on the right thing to fight, it's ridiculous. Ridiculous what people back. Ridiculous. I would rather take my life in my own hands. I would rather kill myself slowly over years and years and years and pretend it's not my fault than to see that I actually have been killing myself for years and years and years. All part of a vicious cycle. A vicious cycle that needs to end. Now, maybe some of you heard my message last week, and you're thinking, well, no, that doesn't pertain to me. I never did that. These are not things that I have a problem with. I'm going to talk about a few more things, and we'll see. Maybe you're just not seeing that there's a back doorway to see if these things that I had talked about last week do apply. We'll give that a shot today. We'll talk about checking out evidence that you might actually be dopamine chasing from a different angle. How many times have you had plans to go out to dinner, whether it's with a bunch of friends, a bunch of family, whatever it is, and the overwhelming majority of the people want to go to one particular place, and you're like the only one who doesn't want to go there? And you either kick and scream and pout that you don't want to go there, but because you're so outnumbered, you have to go anyway. Or you don't say anything because you know that you're outnumbered and you're going to just deal with whatever comes. When you go, has there ever been a moment when you're staring on that menu? You know you don't want to be there. You know you had something else in mind altogether. You have been in the mood for some other dish in some other restaurant that nobody out of the 10 people you went out to dinner with had the desire to go to. You are 1 out of 10 that wanted to go to that restaurant. And I'm not even going to be specific here. I'm just saying you are the anomaly. Everybody else wanted to go to one place. You wanted to go somewhere else because you had it in your head that you were in the mood for this particular thing. When you get to where you're going, it becomes this struggle. A struggle with, what do I eat? How can I explain this better? In the TV show, Say Yes to the Dress, I know you guys have to have seen that show. A girl goes into a bridal shop. She tries on 1,000,000 dresses. And then she finally says, yes, this is the dress I'm going to get married in. And everybody's all happy. And she has the tears and all the wonderful things that come along with choosing a wedding dress. How many times have you seen an episode where the girl tries something, whether it's because of a friend or because of a loved one, tries something that's like 5 times her price range, 10 times her price range. She has enough money to buy a $5,000 dress and somebody hands her a $50,000 dress. And she doesn't know that it's $50,000. She just puts the dress on. And the dress fits her like it was made for her body. And it's the most wonderful thing in the world. And the salesperson is pissed because they know she's only going to be thinking about this one dress that she can't afford from here on out. That this whole thing is lost because of some idiot that came with her handing her a dress that's 10 times what she could afford. And nothing she puts on compares to that dress. How many times have you seen an episode like that? I mean, I don't even pay attention, and I've seen episodes like that. Sometimes it's on in the background on a Saturday, and I'm just relaxing on the couch, messing around with my cell phone. And it's on the TV. So, if I have noticed an episode like that, I'm sure people who religiously watch this show have noticed an episode like that too. This is the angle I'm trying to come at. You are the only one who did not want to go to the restaurant that was chosen, but you are so outnumbered, you didn't really have a choice. And now, literally, you know what you were in the mood for. And you see what's on the menu, and there's literally nothing. You are analysis by paralysis. I'm sorry, I said that backwards. You are paralysis by analysis. You have no idea what to choose because the one thing you're in the mood for is not on this menu. It's on somebody else's. And no matter what you choose, none of them is going to give you that hit that the other thing would have given you instantly. No matter what you choose, you are leaving this restaurant unsatisfied. Is that not evidence that you naturally chase a dopamine cycle that you may not be aware of? How many times have you been sitting in your home craving a particular food item? Let's call it ice cream. You're craving it so badly. Instead, you're doing everything else but having ice cream. And in the end of it all, if you added up all of the calories of all the things you ate instead of ice cream, you were probably better off just eating ice cream. Because each thing you chose to eat didn't give the satisfaction or the dopamine hit that the food you were in the mood for was going to give you. Is that not another way you can say that you're chasing dopamine without really knowing it? What about when you have been waiting for a moment all this time, and it finally comes to the moment that you've been looking forward to. Let me think of a food item here. It's your birthday. And you want a particular cake from a particular bakery. And you're looking forward to it because you know it's your birthday and you're going to allow yourself that cake. You're looking forward to it all week. Everybody comes over. Everybody sings happy birthday. You blow out some candles. Here comes the cake. The chef in the bakery that normally makes the cake, maybe he was out that day. Maybe he's on vacation. And someone else completely different makes it. I've told you guys this before. When something is really made by a person, when a food item is really made by a person, it could be the same dish made by 3 people. All of them are going to taste different. I could eat eggplant parmesan made by my mother, my grandmother, and my aunt. All 3 of those dishes are eggplant parmesan. And I could tell you which one made which. Because they're all different cooks. And this is part of the reason you see me avoid chain restaurants all the time. Because it should scare you that I could walk into an Olive Garden and order veal scampi, whatever, in New York, and go to Oklahoma, Wyoming, Idaho, California, to a Olive Garden and order the same dish and it tastes exactly the same. And meanwhile, they're chefs that never met each other. This should concern you. It should concern you. Same idea. So here we go back to the birthday. A different chef made that cake. And you taste it and you know it's off. And you fly off the handle. Complaining, screaming. Everybody in the room knows you do not like this cake. Everybody in the room. The tantrum that you're throwing in this moment is like a kid who didn't get the lollipop he wanted because it was close to dinner time. Is this not evidence that you chased dopamine and when it did not hit the way you wanted it to hit? You flipped out. I have one last example to share with you guys. One last piece of evidence that you might be chasing dopamine cycles. You're unhappy with the way you feel, your health, you're unhappy with all of it. You decide to start a weight loss program. Doesn't really matter which one. And regardless of which one it is, it could even be, when you compare all the weight loss programs and all of the methods of weight loss, they all work in their own right. But clearly, the most lenient one of them all is WW. But if you eat so drastically different that even the initial change, because look, nothing changes unless you change. You heard me say this before. This is not news. This is not like breaking news here. Nothing changes unless you change. So on day one, even though the changes may not be the same as they are 6 years later, day one, it's still a change based on how you ate the day before you started. And sometimes that day one eating is still so drastically different that there becomes a lull. And you're doing everything right. You're tracking. You're weighing and measuring. You're moving. You're even having some results. The results in the beginning feel good. Because, when you first start a program, the weight falls off practically because of how you had been eating. But eventually it slows down. This is part of the reason why they ask you to make a commitment to 11 or 10 months. Because you're going to get past the lull because you made a financial commitment to yourself. Now, whether or not you actually use the program, there's plenty of people who pay for membership and don't actually use the program. Plenty of people. So many things are designed in this society that perfect example is Planet Fitness. If every member that paid for a Planet Fitness membership showed up all at the same time, the fire code would be reached. They would literally have to turn people away. But the business model of that business, or many other businesses for that matter, is that we bank on you not showing up. We charge such a small amount of money that it doesn't bother you to pay for it and not use it. See, like $9.99 a month doesn't seem like a big deal. It actually might be more of a hassle to cancel it than it would just to keep paying. Like in that episode of Friends, they wanted to cancel the gym membership. They ended up trying to cancel the bank membership because they thought that would be easier than canceling the gym membership, if you remember that episode. But you're doing everything right. Everything slows down. The results are not coming the way they go. That feel-good feeling of the results counteracting what you're missing out on because of that change you initially made, it's not there anymore. Now you're really starting to notice the absence of the things you used to eat. And even though it's only the beginning, it's such a drastic change. Even the first change is such a drastic change because of the way you used to eat before this, that you start to go through dopamine withdrawal. What's some evidence of dopamine withdrawal? The sky is falling mentality. When people are coming at you as an angle of the sky is falling, the question should always be asked, well, what is this really about? If somebody's saying something like, I'm 75 years old, what's the point of doing this anymore? I'm 75 years old. What is the point? I don't know. How about you make it to 95? Is that not a good enough point? Is this not evidence? Have you not told yourself that life is not worth living because you can't have the things that you want and you're not getting results anyway? So you say, I'd rather die sooner. What's the point? I'm 75 years old anyway. What's the point? Why fight? These are the same things that diabetics go through. The overwhelming majority of the people diagnosed with diabetes have type 2 diabetes. Type 2 diabetes is curable with a change in lifestyle. You do not need to be on medication. You could change your lifestyle and get all of the same benefits as being on medication. There's people who get on the medication for a temporary situation. They make the right choices in life. Then they're off the medication and they are essentially moved on and cure themselves of diabetes. Then there are people who decide me having what brings me pleasure is more important than me being healthy. Life isn't worth living without this pleasure that this food item gives me. Give me the pill necessary so I can keep eating the way I eat. And this doesn't help in the current medical system, essentially encouraging this behavior. They're not stupid. The medical system is a business like anything else. If you end up curing yourself, you're no longer making them money. If you don't need medication, if you don't need treatment, if you don't need to see the doctor, they don't make any money off of you. Essentially, if the whole world figured out how to live life and be healthy, you would put out the fastest growing industry, you would put them out of business. They would not be able to survive, especially at the size they have become. They would not be able to survive. And the byproduct of that is a healthy world. Isn't that backwards? Isn't that ass backwards right now? If the whole world figured it out, if the whole world suddenly knew what to do and decided to do whatever it takes to become the best version of themselves, you would put an entire industry out of business. More than one, really. You would put the food industry out of business. You would put the drug industry out of business. You would put the insurance industry out of business. All of these systems work together. They all work together, and they all make money off of managing your illness rather than curing you of it. And the overwhelming majority of the illnesses, left and right, are being proven to be nutritionally related. And if you have a chiropractor and you have a primary care physician right now, your chiropractor is required to take more hours about nutrition and knows more essentially about nutrition than your primary care physician. Who are you going to go to about nutrition when the time comes? Who's going to be giving you the advice? Meanwhile, would you ever think to yourself, well, let me make an appointment with the chiropractor so I can ask him about how to make some nutrition changes in my life? No. But they have more hours training in nutrition as a requirement than your primary care physician does. We live in a backwards world. And the world is designed to keep you content and comfortable while you die. That sounds really ugly when I say it, but it's true. The entire system, the whole thing, from the food you eat to the illness you get, so your food that you purchased at the grocery store, the money you will use to pay the physician because you're ill from the food you ate, the prescription the physician will give you sends you to a drugstore, and you will buy medication because you need to feel better because of the illness the food gave you, except the medication is only designed to make you feel whatever symptoms are better. It's not designed to cure you because they all know the actual cure is changing what you ate to begin with. That's the actual cure. And if we're sitting here chasing dopamine cycles for the rest of our life, what are we really going to accomplish? What are we really going to accomplish? What if every time you made a choice that was against your health versus for your health, or against your goals versus for your goals? What if that meant X amount of days off the other end of your life? How many times have you heard a person at the end of their life saying life is too short? It's a sad difference in ratio when you think about it. I don't know that I ever met anyone that at the end of their life, when it comes time, they're happy with it. They're not, I don't know that I can even think of one, to be honest with you. One person at the end of their life on their bed saying, I lived a good life. This was great. A great experience. Now I'm ready for the next adventure. Instead, they talk more like, life is too short. Where did the time go? What happened? What did I actually accomplish? What did I do? What if every time we were distracted by anything, any of these things? If you are using food to cope, are you distracted from your purpose in this world? If you are treating yourself because of the illness, the food you use to cope, if you are paying attention to the illness, are you accomplishing what you were supposed to do, what you're called to do in this world? If you're spending your time fighting illness, if you are fighting side effects from all of the medications that have become your meal now, because you insist on eating a certain way, your pill collection has become just as large and just as much a laboratory experiment as your breakfast, lunch, and dinner. And all of it together, you are a petri dish that would cause an explosion in any laboratory. And yet, it's just life. Just life. How many people have you seen at the end? And how many people have been happy with their life and joyous for the next adventure to move on to the afterlife? And how many of them have been dreading the moment they would cross over because they felt like they never really lived here? That ratio is astronomically bad. It's in the wrong direction for sure. I'm not even going to attempt at numbers here. I don't need to. Your personal experience will tell you that story. It's really sad to hear people talk like that. Oh, I'm 75 years old. What's the point? It's really sad. They are so hyper-focused on what they are not having. They can't even see that something they might gain might be actually better than what they're not having. Imagine that. A person would rather have the sugar and die sooner as a diabetic than think of the possibility of life without sugar. Sugar is not a requirement. It's not one of the essential food groups. And yet, we have normalized, so much so, living with it, that me just mentioning something the way I have mentioned, I talk the way I talk on purpose. Me striking a chord and saying people would rather have their sugar and die sooner than to actually fathom a life without it. People will be more concentrated and more offended that I actually had the idea of saying that. And they would literally invent any other reason. Meanwhile, it is widely known that type 2 diabetes is curable with a lifestyle change. They would rather attack the message and believe themselves out, believe their own situation is out of their control. Nothing changes unless you change. It is that simple. I can't put it to you any other way than that. Are you doing any of the things I talked about today? Are you doing any of the things I talked about over the last 2 weeks? If so, are you happy doing those things? If you are, my message is really not for you then, right? If you are unhappy with the message, is it because you know you're doing it? Really, the choice is yours. Just because of what you've done yesterday, you're not labeled some poor, bad person because of it. Because what you did yesterday, it doesn't matter. That's the wonderful thing about life. What you did yesterday doesn't matter. And if you truthfully want to change, it starts right now. It starts right this minute. It starts with a decision. I'm done. I'm done with this, and it's time to move forward. That's what it starts with. And then a series of things need to actually change. And all of those things are going to be uncomfortable changes. Because taking charge and becoming the best version of you will be the most difficult thing you ever do, and it will be the most uncomfortable thing you ever do. And none of that feelings matter if what you say you want is what you actually want. There is no comfortable way to become the 2%. Those people have become the 2% for a reason, because they did all of the things they needed to do. The blood, the sweat, the tears, the overwhelming craziness toward a healthy life that all of us looked at them and laughed and said, it can't be that necessary. What you're doing is too much. You need some balance. No, that was us comparing our lives to them and feeling uncomfortable and wanting to fix them rather than fix ourselves. That's what that core is. We have all done it. We have all accused other people of being over the top. Meanwhile, the person who really needs to change is the person that stares you back in the mirror every single week. And that's the person you never change, because God forbid, you actually know what it feels to be uncomfortable. Do what is easy and your life will be hard. Do what is hard and your life will be easy. It is that simple. Make the change today. Choose life. Stop choosing death. No matter how difficult, no matter how uncomfortable. Choose you now. I love each and every one of you. God bless you all.